In this video, we'll continue on building out the API, and soon we will start to implement best practices when we code. For now, we will make the news article not just be one object, but actually be a list of objects. You remember in the last video, we had a news article. Now we want to turn it into a list. So let's do var news articles to say that this is a list of news articles and then equals to new list of news article. But actually here we can use a nice notation to be able to initialize the array right away, or the list you can say. So we can say new news article inside of the new list news article, like I'm doing here. This will kind of be the same. Let me show you quickly. If we had here var news, just news equals to new list and then of news article, like that. If we had it, then we could say news.add, and then we could say new news article inside of here. It will be the same thing, but it's just a quicker notation to just instantly initialize the list without having to use the add functionality after. So do you remember we had a news article ID of 1? So we can do actually the same thing here. We can just say ID is equal to 1. Title, first article, it's fine. This is the first article. And we also have a date here. So we can say date is equal to date time now, as Copilot is suggesting. And then we can do a comma here just to have new news article again. And you can see how Copilot now is really helping us. It's really nice to see because it really saves you a lot of time. So what have we done? We created a news articles list. Instead of just returning one object, which we did originally in part 2, we are now changing that to be a list of news articles with 3 items in it. You can think of it as 3 news articles inside of the list. So basically now we have all these things, so therefore we can just remove this because we don't use it anymore. And instead of saying return a news article as a JSON object, we actually want to return, instead of just JSON result, we can just return it differently. So here we can then just say news articles instead and get rid of this comment here. All right, so now we have a news articles list. As you can see, we have 3 items in it, and we are returning it as a new of JSON result of news articles. So if we now go ahead and run this program, we should actually have 3 items in the list, not just 1 object as we had originally, if you remember. So remember, it's API, and a news article. But you can see here, this is the first item, this is the second item, and this is the third item. So remember, we have first article, second article, and third article. So now we have basically changed out the var news article as in one article. Do you remember we had it kind of like this, var news article, and then we said that news article was equal to some new news article, like new news article, and then we had it like that, and then we had ID is equal to whatever, and so on, right? But what we have done now instead is that we have news article as one object, and we have another news article as another object. These are just kind of anonymous objects because we can't see the naming of them when we initialize them in the list. And all these objects, we just put it inside of a list of news article. And therefore, instead of just returning one object, we now have basically a list of news articles. So let's say that this is the memory object here, this is the other, and so on. And the way it will find it, it's not that important, but you can see here that this is element 0, this is 1, this is 2, And we have basically 3 elements of news articles. That's why we can see when we come over here that we have ID1, ID2, and ID3.